We had really choppy week 1 football. And this is what I would say, by the way, and I wonder how you feel about it. Maybe if you have a veteran quarterback and said veteran quarterback has been hurt, and we have several, we have 3, maybe take a couple snaps.
Suzy,
can you explain to me, as somebody who's lived with teams, what's the theory on not playing a veteran quarterback?
It's a great point. And the quarterbacks to whom you're referring, of course, are Aaron Rodgers. He didn't play at all in the preseason. Kirk Cousins, I don't believe he played at all in the preseasons. And Joe Burrow played the first series of the first preseason game and then no more.
Yeah, we're talking preseason, people.
Yes, preseason. Each of those men coming off very significant injuries last year. And in the case of 2 of them, no time in the preseason. And as I said, Joe had 1 series. It's a classic, vintage, quintessential risk-reward analysis. The risk, of course, if you play them, an injury. That can happen in the preseason. The reward, of course, is that they are ready and the timing for the team is better and things are more fluid when you start the season. Risk-reward analysis. And this is a discussion, Suzy, I had with Al Davis regularly. There were times he would want men to come off the practice field during training camp. I remember saying to him, Al, we can't put them in bubble wrap. That was a quote. We can't put them in bubble wrap. And then a week or so later, we had a very, very bad injury. And I said, about that bubble wrap idea, there may be something to that. I remember sitting in the staff area of the press box during a preseason game and Al telling me to go up to the coaching booth and tell them, get him off the field, because you do run the risk of an injury. But I believe we saw in each of those games a lot of rust with respect to players who didn't get a lot of time in the preseason. Would they have won had they gotten more time? We don't know the answer to that, but there's something to be said for knocking the rust off.
Yeah, and I think I listened to Kirk Cousins on Rich's show on Wednesday, and he was talking about said rust. And he's always so honest about his performance and really gives, for a lot of quarterbacks who don't want to talk after a loss, he's actually really open about it. And that there was rust to be had from there. And I also believe this, having spent so much of my career with athletes, they'll tell you that they're not thinking about that injury out there. But when you're out there testing it out, I think there's always that apprehension that an athlete has, wondering how the surgically repaired Achilles or what have you is going to hold up. He mentioned his ankle. He thinks of it as the whole joint, the whole part of his ankle, not just the Achilles. But you had him out there testing out an Achilles. You had Aaron Rodgers testing out his Achilles repair. We saw Joe Burrow constantly working his wrist, trying to figure out where he is. And then you just wonder, what is the idea? Is it, like you said, risk reward? I think that I'd want to get out those jinx in the preseason, although the risk is so high.
It is a risk. And look, if Aaron Rodgers plays in the preseason, do they win the other night? San Francisco looked phenomenal. San Francisco looked tremendous on both sides of the ball. The Jets, on the other hand, looked bad on defense. I expected more from the Jets on defense. Now, query, was it that the Jets' defense wasn't good, or that they were facing a dynamic offense, or a combination thereof? And then you look at Burrow. Burrow's 1-4 in game 1 of the season. So if he plays in the preseason, do they beat New England? Maybe. But he's not generally good in the first week of the season. So we can't control for all of those variables, and each team is going to do its risk-reward analysis differently. I worked for Al, and he looked at the risk more than the reward of playing guys in the preseason, or more importantly, in training camp.
Check out new episodes of What the Football with Suzy Shuster and Amy Trask every Tuesday. Watch us on the Rich Eisen Show YouTube page, or follow and listen wherever you get your podcasts.